Happy Wednesday. Welcome to this week's bonus Facebook Live. Today I am going to share with you a couple projects using the, what are these called? Butterflies and flowers layering decorative masks. So these are from the January to June 2022 mini catalog. All right. First of all, my name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. And you can find me at stampeddtreasures.com is my blog, and you can find me on all of the social medias. I will post all of the links in the description so that you can find me elsewhere. I'd love for you to follow along with me. Normally on Fridays at 11 a.m. I go live with a crafty project, but during the month of February, I'm doing bonus Facebook Lives on Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time, just to feature some extra products during celebration, because my Friday lives are focused on celebration products. So you can go back to my YouTube channel or even my blog and find all of those previous videos. Okay, speaking of previous videos, last week I demoed, oh, you know what? I picked out the wrong ones. These are for Friday. What did I do last Wednesday? Last Wednesday, oh, I did these ones. Okay. Last Wednesday, I used the Love and Happiness bundle and created these two projects. So like I said, you can go back on my blog and check out the replay for those if you want to see how these came together. And I have not yet drawn. So you always have the opportunity to win the projects that I create by participating in the conversation. So whether you're watching the live or you're watching the replay, I tally all the comments normally right before I go live the following week. Sometimes it's after if I forget. Like today, it will be after. And I enter your names to win these projects. So 2 lucky winners from commenting on last week's either live or replay or even on YouTube. I check all the channels. Okay, so you can still go check out that video and comment, because I have not figured out the winners. And then last Friday, I focused on the Daffodil Afternoon DSP. So you can find that replay on my YouTube channel as well. So the winners for these cards I will announce on Friday when I go live, and these ones I will announce later today. Okay. All right, back to what we're creating today, or using today. So we are going to use these fabulous masks. So masks are basically stencils. That's what Stampin' Up! Calls stencils. And this is a set of 6, and they're a little bit different than the other masks that we've carried. So there's 3 of them in here that kind of are background type masks. So you can kind of see there. So this one, I love this one, it's so pretty. So those are the 3 kind of background masks. And then there are 3 other ones. We've got this one, which has a beautiful butterfly and a flower. And so you can see that it's got the larger butterfly and then this. So that's why it's called layering. You can layer them. Okay, and then there's some floral images, and then some more florals and some leaves. Okay, so I'm going to share just a couple ways that you can use these today, but I do have a class coming up in March on a card class where we're going to create 6 cards, 2 of each, using these masks. But I'm also going to demo several different ways that you can use them. Okay, because there's so much potential with these masks. They are super, super fun. Okay. And then the other stamp set that I'm going to use today is the Celebrating You stamp set, which is another great greeting. You can find it on the same page as the masks in the January to June mini catalog. So it covers greetings for lots of different occasions. We've got Mother's Day, we've got Father's Day, we've got birthday, we've got baby, Easter, you know, some congrats, thank you. What else? We've got anniversary, we've got a wedding one. So there's a lot of different occasions that this set will cover. Okay, now when you're using masks, there are some things that I suggest that you have on hand. Now, my favorite way to apply ink to a mask is using our blending brushes. that doesn't mean that's the only way. You can also use sponges. You could also use a finger dauber. You can spritz. You can, I mean, there's lots of different ways you can apply it, but this is probably my go-to is our blending brushes. The other thing that is helpful to have on hand, especially with masks like these where there's several different images on one mask, because we might not want to use all of these, right? Or all of them at the same time. So it's handy to either have, oh, I'm moving around here, some Post-it notes or some washi tape, or actually Post-it notes and washi tape, or some Post-it tape. So this is Post-it labeling cover-up tape, and it's like comes on a roll, like a roll of tape, but it's only sticky like a Post-it note is sticky. So it's really easy to remove, and it's not going to affect your project. Okay. All right. So, and we're probably going to use a few different things today. The other thing that I do find helpful is some temporary adhesive. Okay. And you'll see how I use that in a minute. All right. So let me just straighten out here and we'll go ahead and get started. So this first project is, I'm going to show you just a simple way that you can use your masks to create a nice background. Now, I don't want to ruin my pretty background paper, so I'm just going to grab another scrap. I'm going to use some temporary adhesive. I've got a piece of Bermuda Bake cardstock. This piece measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, let me catch up on the comments here before we get started. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Leanne and Elaine and Lori and Missy. Good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Okay, and we're going to use, for this particular project, we're going to use this one. So for this first project, I'm not going to layer any of the masks, but the next one I will. So I'll show you how easy it is to layer. Okay. So we're going to use this stencil over top, and I do want to put some adhesive to hold this stencil down, just so that I don't have to make sure that it doesn't, I want to make sure that it doesn't move, but so that I don't have to hold it and my fingers don't get in the way. So I'm going to use a little bit of this tape, and we're going to tear it in half. This is a wider, this is the 1-inch Post-it tape, and I'm just going to put it down the sides here, just to hold that stencil in place. I'll still use my fingers to hold it in place just to make sure. I'm gonna use some Bermuda Bay ink and my blending brush. I'm gonna tap off the excess, and I'm gonna start in the middle and just in a circular motion, just work my way out. And I'm using a very light touch because I want this background to be subtle. And I want it to be darker in the middle and then gradually get lighter as we go out. And I don't want to go all the way to the edges either. Okay, so again, I'm starting in the middle because that's where I want it to be a little bit darker. And just going in a circular motion. And it's really hard to tell. You can hardly tell at all on the video that there is any ink on here, but I can see that there is some ink there. It's coming along. I'm going to do one more layer. And when I remove the mask, you'll be able to see it a little bit better, and I'll bring it up closer to the camera. Okay, so we're doing tone on tone. Of course, you could do a different color on here, but I just wanted to show you how you could create like a nice subtle background. So now I'm going to lift this up, and we can remove this. And you see how that just creates a nice, subtle background. So pretty. I love it. Okay, we'll set this aside for now. And we'll bring in the rest of our pieces. Okay, so let me share what I've got here. Okay, so I gave you the measurement of that. I just covered up my measurements. Let's slide that out of the way. Card base is a piece of thick Whisper White, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And you can always check today's blog post for the measurements. It will get posted shortly after the video is done. I've got a piece of black cardstock that measures 4 by 5 1/4. I've also got a piece of black cardstock that I've cut using the Tasteful Labels dies. I love these dies because they layer so nicely. So we're going to use a combination of 3 of these to create our focal point. So this black one was cut with this larger circle, and then I used a piece of vellum that I cut with this largest one here, and then I've got a piece of white that I've cut using this middle-sized one right here. Okay, so those are our label shapes. And then I've got a piece of, oh, I got rhinestones going all over the place here. 2 pieces that measure 4.5 inches of the basic black glittery organdy ribbon or organza ribbon. I think that's what it's called, something along those lines. But it's so pretty. It's so shiny. It's got that sparkle on it. It's really pretty. It's a ribbon that I've had in my collection and have not used very much. So I thought it would be perfect for this. And I love our brights colors with a little touch of black. I think you've heard me say that before, because I just think that it makes those bright colors just really, really pop. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adhere these 2 layers. I'm just going to use some multi-purpose glue. Got a little piece of glitter on there. And we'll put that on there so that we have a nice narrow border. Okay, and then this is going to go on our card base. And it will give us about 1/8 of an inch border. So we've got 2 different widths of borders, which I love to do. I think it makes your cards look really classy if you have some thinner borders and some wider borders. Okay. All right, now we need to do a little bit of stamping. We're going to use the greeting that says, "You are every bit of wonderful," and that is from the Celebrating You stamp set. And we're going to stamp that using some Memento ink. I'm just going to ink that up. Make sure it's nice and well inked. And then my label looks straight. Stamp that right down on there. Okay, and then we're going to do a little bit more to this. So I wanted to add a little bit of color to this label, but before we do that, while I have this stencil out, we're going to do the envelope flap. So I'm going to grab another scrap piece of cardstock here, or not cardstock, patterned paper. Okay. So let's move this out of the way. And so we've got 1 scrap piece here. I'm going to remove this tape so that I can reuse it. I'm going to put this, tuck it underneath here, fold the envelope flap over, and then I want to make sure I go right to the edge. Okay, so we'll put that here and this here so that we can create an envelope that has that same beautiful pattern as our card does. So I'm going to bring back my Bermuda Bay ink and my blending brush, and I'm going to start off and just work my way on, and I'll just very lightly go in a circular motion to decorate that envelope flap. And this time I'm going to go right edge to edge. Just ink this up a little bit more, tap off the excess. Again, start off of the paper. Just want to make sure I get it all. And of course you can do it as dark or as light as you want. I just want to make sure that there's at least a little bit of pattern on the entire envelope flap. Okay, I think that should be good. Okay, I'm gonna leave that open because we're gonna pull that back in a minute. And then look how pretty that looks. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside. Now to clean your masks, all you need to do is just run them under tap water. You don't need to use soap or anything. I mean, unless you're using Versamark. If you're using Versamark, you might want to add a little bit of soap and use your finger and rub it in, or embossing paste, you can use your finger and get that off as well. But if it's just regular ink that you're using, just running it under tap water is good. So I'm going to set that aside so I remember to clean it. And look at that. So we've got that same pattern to match our card. Okay. All right. Now, going to bring back this label shape, and I'm going to use this scrap piece of paper. Let's take this off so that we can reuse it on another piece. And I'm going to bring in a different stencil. This time I'm going to use, you do want to be careful with these stencils because sometimes they get caught in, you can see that they're kind of catching here. So you do want to be careful about that. Okay. All right, so we're going to bring in this one, and I want to use this little flower right here. So what I'm going to do is take my label shape, just add a little bit of temporary adhesive, and we're going to put that on there. And then right on the corner, I'm going to add one of these little flowers. I probably don't need to re-ink this, so I'm just going to, I just want it to be really soft. Oh, maybe I do. Let's see, we'll just keep adding a few layers. So what I'm being careful, I'm being mindful to not go too close to the edge because I don't want there to be some Bermuda Bay on the edge here. And it doesn't really matter for these ones because we're off of the label shape, but you'll see on the next one how I mask those off. All right, so now we've got a cute little flower right in the corner there, just like that. Okay, all right, we are done with this. Now we can go ahead and finish putting our card together. Okay, set this aside and we'll bring back our card base. Okay, we're gonna start with our vellum. I'm just gonna put a strip of adhesive across the center, and then this is gonna go down. And I chose to use vellum because I do wanna see that little bit of pattern that we added using the mask. I probably could have gone out just a little bit further here. Okay, and then we're going to use this guy and we'll add it to the center of our vellum shape. And then we're going to add our ribbon. And we're going to go kind of at an angle, excuse me, like that. So let's add a little bit of ribbon on top, or a little bit of adhesive on the top of this, and go over top of that. And then we're going to use some dimensionals to add this guy. So I'm going to do one above and one below because we've got our ribbon that's going to go down the center. Okay, and then this is going to go right across the middle. This is my favorite layering label combination. I love those three labels together. Okay, and then I had some, here we go, some rhinestones. These are just our regular rhinestones from the annual catalog. I've got 3 of them. So I'll add one here. And then let's do another one up here. Another one here. And then, you know what, we haven't done anything on the inside, so let's bring back that stencil and add just a little bit of the stenciling to the inside. Just a nice subtle little pattern kind of right in the corner here. There we go. All right, so there is our first card done. Here's our envelope and then our card. Okay, so that is one simple way that you can use the masks. And this particular technique will go with any, will work with any mask. It doesn't have to be a layering mask. Okay, this next one works best with a layering mask. I know I love Bermuda Bay as well. Bermuda Bay is one of my favorite colors. It's so pretty. Okay, so I'll set that aside. I will bring that back and show it to you afterwards. Okay, let's pull in our next one. Okay, so for this next card, we're going to start with a card base that measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and it's scored at 5 1/2. So it's still going to fold and be the same size card. So it's still going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 when it's folded down. And we are going to bring in the butterfly this time. Okay, and we're going to take our mask and I'm going to position it. Actually, you know what we're going to do first? We are going to actually tear the bottom. And so I'm going to take the card base, I'm holding it with my left hand and I'm tearing towards me with my right hand. Just tearing a little bit off the bottom. And then I've got a piece of the Rainbows and Sunshine DSP. This is a DSP that you can earn for free. Actually, I think it's Sunshine and Rainbows DSP. It's a 6x6 paper that you can earn for free during celebration with a qualifying order. And we're going to add a little bit of adhesive here and add this to the bottom for a pop of color. And you'll see why I wanted to do this first. So I'm going to line this up. This is a 1 by 4 1/4 inch piece. I'm going to line this up with the bottom of the inside of my card and then just fold the flap over. Okay, so I've got a little bit of color peeking out. Now I've got a little bit that's showing here. It's a little bit longer than my card base, so let's go ahead and trim that off. Okay. All right, so we're going to pull colors from there and there into our butterfly. So the reason I did that first is because I want to see how much space I have at the bottom, because I want to fit my butterfly. I still want to add something at the top and I still want to add something at the bottom. So I just needed to know how much space I had to work with so I could get my positioning right. Okay, so I think this will work. So what I'm looking for is I want it to be centered. So I'm looking to see that there's an even space on both sides, or relatively even. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I also want it to be straight. Okay, so let's bring back our Post-it tape here, and we're going to tape this on here so that it holds it in place. Okay, now I want to ink up just the butterfly. I don't want this flower and I don't want this bit just yet. So when you're using your blending brushes, sometimes it's really hard, especially when they're that close. It's hard not to get that image if you don't cover it over. So that's where your Post-it notes come in handy. So I'm going to take a Post-it note and kind of put it right in here at an angle to cover that bit up. And then I'll take another one and go this way, and another one and go this way. Okay, so now I can safely ink up my whole butterfly and not worry about getting those other little spots. Okay, let's put this guy away. And we're going to bring in some Bumblebee, and then our Bumblebee blending brush, or our yellow blending brush. And I'm just going to bring in my scrap. I'll tap off on my scrap. And then I'm going to start on the Post-it note and just, again, very lightly. I'd rather start really light and not get some harsh marks and add more layers. I feel like if I use a really light hand, I have a little bit more control, especially when you're doing it on white. And you want to make sure you get into that antenna as well. Antenna, is that what those are called? Okay, let's ink that up again, tap off some of the excess. And add another layer here. I tell you, I'm so happy that Stampin' Up! Came out with blending brushes. I love them so, so much. I find they're so much easier to use than a sponge, which is what we used before. Okay, I think I might add just one more layer. Okay, it's looking good. So now this next step, we're going to use the other butterfly as another layer. Now for this, you can use the same color, which I think looks really, really good, but we're going to use a different color. Okay, so let's remove this. Good morning, Gail. We're going to remove this and we'll lift up our tape so you guys can see. Look how pretty that is. Looks nice just like that, but wait until you guys see it with the layers on it. Okay, so now I know this is not going to, oh, well, maybe it will. I'll bring it up a little closer so you guys can see. So I'm going to line it up right on top, and let me bring it up a little bit closer. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see it, but I can see the yellow around the edges so that I can line this image up. Yeah, it's really hard to see, but I can see that there's a nice even border of yellow around the edges, which is what I want. Okay, so I'm going to carefully set that down, just make sure that I'm happy the way it looks. Looks good. I'll stick my tape down, and then I'm going to bring in my Post-it notes again, and I'm going to cover over this butterfly because I don't want any extra ink on that butterfly. And then I want to cover this straight edge because, again, there isn't an image down here, but there is that straight edge, and I don't want there to be any ink that shows up there. So I'm just going to cover this over like that. I think I should be okay here. All right, now we are going to bring in some Magenta Madness. So these two colors are actually two of the 5 colors that will shortly be retiring when the annual catalog leaves. So if these are colors that you have and you don't have your ink refills or absolutely love one of the colors or a couple of the colors and want to get extra cardstock, now is the time to stock up before they sell out. Okay, so I'm going to use the pink, and again, I'm going to start in the middle and work my way out. And what I want for this one is I want it to be a little bit darker in the center and then gradually get lighter as we go out. Okay, and this is a little bit more like this has some movement to it because it's only attached right here. So you can go in a circular motion if you're really light-handed. Excuse me, but I do find it helpful to kind of work my way from the center out. Okay, we'll ink this up again, tap off that excess. Again, I'm going to start in the middle. Oh my goodness, I had a frog in my throat today. And just with a light hand, start adding that color all the way out, but then go back to the center bit and just make it a little bit darker. Maybe a little bit more, just because I can see how dark it is right there. So I want to kind of get it the same on both sides. Okay, I think I'm good with that. All right, now I want to add one more layer of color. So I really want the center bit to be darker. So I'm actually going to bring in some black. Now I don't have a blending brush that I use with black. And because I want to add just a little bit, I'm going to use a black finger dauber or sponge dauber. So I'm just going to tap that in my Memento ink and just go in a circular motion right in the center, but then kind of pull the color out like this. So it's, again, darker in the center and gradually gets lighter. Now that doesn't look like much. I'll bring it up so you can have a closer look, but wait until we remove the mask. It's going to look amazing. Okay, let's lift that up. Okay, so you can see the three colors. There's a little bit of yellow kind of around the edges, and then we've got that pink, and then we've got that black in the center. Now watch this. I'll peel off this mask. And look at that beautiful butterfly. Is that not amazing? It's so beautiful. And it was so simple to do. Just a few layers of ink and you've got that stunning image. I tell you, these masks are incredible. Okay, let's finish up our card here. Now, I am going to bring in my Stamparatus. And I'm going to do this because now we just went to all this work to create this beautiful butterfly, and now I want to stamp right on the card base. So we do not want to mess this up. So this is our Stamparatus is going to help us with that. So I like to have just an empty stamp case, which actually let's take out our stamp first. We're going to use Just For You from the Celebrating You stamp set. I like to have an empty stamp case when I open this so that it sits nice and flat. Okay, and we are going to take our card and position it in here. I'll use my magnet to keep it flat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this. Now I've got, this is our old, does anybody remember the Stamp-A-Ma-Jig? That was what we used before we had the Stamparatus, was a Stamp-A-Ma-Jig. It was a great tool, but nowhere near as nice as the Stamparatus. This Stamparatus is incredible. So I've got the imaging sheet from our Stamp-A-Ma-Jig. Okay, I'm trying to get myself straight here, and I don't know if I keep making it worse. Okay, so I've got this because this is going to help me make sure that it's lined up before I actually stamp it down. So I haven't really positioned this. It doesn't matter where it is at the moment, but I just, in case there's any residue on here, I don't want to put it right on my, my card base. So I'm going to position this. I want it to be just below my butterfly, and I want to make sure it's straight. Okay, that looks like it's okay. So then I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to position that. I'm going to ink up my stamp with Memento because I want to stamp it in black. And I'm going to stamp it down on the imaging sheet first so that I can make sure that it's positioned correctly. Okay, so I don't know if how well that you can see that, but it's crooked. So this is why it's helpful to do this on an imaging sheet before you do it on your card base. Okay, so I'm just going to use my chamois. Just wipe that clean. Wipe this clean, and we're going to try it again. So this time I'm going to use the grid that's on here and just try to straighten it and see if that's any better. Okay, let's ink it up again. And hope that this is better. And yes, that looks much better. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure my card base doesn't move because it's all lined up for my card base. I'm going to slide that out of the way, add my magnet. Now I can re-ink. And stamp it down confidently, knowing that it's going to be straight and it's in the right position. So that's one of the, just one of the many great things about our Stamparatus. Okay, so we've got our greeting done. Now I'm going to take a piece of white twine and I'm going to wrap this around and we're going to tie a bow at the top. Okay, let's see here. So, you didn't think I was going to make a project without twine on it, did you? All right. Slide that up to the top. We'll just trim this so it's nice and even. Okay, and then the last step, we need a little bit of bling. So let's see, do I have any in here? Yeah, I did put it in the envelope. Okay, for this one, we are going to use some of our beautiful iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. So I've got one of each size here that we're going to add. So take this nice big one and add it down here. And then let's do the small one. And then the medium-sized one. And we've got a beautiful butterfly card. Look how pretty that is. And it was so simple to do with those layering masks. They're so fun. So we could, of course, add another butterfly to the envelope to coordinate. We could add a flower on the inside. And these flowers, they do mask like, or they do layer like the butterfly as well. So this guy here, you can use this one with it, or you can use this one. This one fits nicely in there. And then these two coordinate with these two. And then these two, of course, coordinate as well. So lots and lots of fun. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I do have an upcoming class focused on these. And I did notice yesterday that they are on low inventory, of course. Because I have a class planned around them. So if you want to participate in the class, you will need those layering masks. I will post in the description where you can find more information on participating in it. And I'll be sharing lots of additional samples and ways to use these masks because there's so much potential. Let me just share a peek of a card that I created using them last night at our team mystery stamping event. This was created using those masks. So you can see that there's just so much potential with these. All right, a couple things before we go. If you place a $60 order with me using this month's host code, this week you will have the choice of either these card kits. So I will send you the supplies to create these card kits, or a gift packaging bundle, which I cannot reach and I forgot to grab, but I will share a photo of that a little bit later, or a link to where you can find more information on that. And then next week it changes. So the little bit of everything. February is my birthday month, so I'm kind of celebrating all month long. Every week is a different gift. And there is a grand prize if you place an order with me. Actually, there's 2 grand prizes. If you place an order with me during February, your name automatically gets